Be'ezrat Hashem na'aseh v'natzliach. I want to welcome you to another session of a Parashat Shavua class. This week is Parashat Yitro. The name of the class is SHALAL. Very interesting class based off of the speech, the text, the actual words that Yitro said. And if we just go deeper, a little bit deeper to what he's saying, we see that there's a lot of depth to what is being said. And a lot of interesting concepts, a lot of practical lessons that we can learn for today's world and today's life from these few words. Before we get started on this week's lesson, I'd like to give some honorable mentions and dedications to the following people. Be'ezrat Hashem, that this class will be in honor of Jacqueline Bat Alia and Tova Shindler Bat Alta, and also for Anonymous, who's sponsoring tonight's class for Parnasa, Zivug, and health. Be'ezrat Hashem, that this class will be to the Inu Ishmat of Fega Bat Hersh Halevi, and to Refuah Shema Rafael Yitzchak Ben Chana. Hashem Vayech Ota, Sameach Ota, and Be'ezrat Hashem should always be on the side of the giving. The rest of the dedications we will do in the end of the class, so we can just jump straight into the lesson. Be'ezrat Hashem, that we learn L'Shem Shamayim V'Besimcha. In Perek Yudchet Pasuk Aleph, it says something very interesting. If we just start off, we'll skip around some of the Pesukim. But it starts, Vayishma Yitro Kohen Midian Choten Moshe et kol asher aseh Elohim Moshe Yisrael Amo ki hotzi Hashem et Yisrael Mitzrayim. Yitro, who's Kohen Midian, who is also the father-in-law of Moshe Rabbeinu, he heard something. He heard all the things that Hashem did for Moshe, his brother-in-law, and the Jewish people. Ki hotzi Hashem et Yisrael Mitzrayim. Hashem took out the Jewish people from Egypt. Rashi says something very interesting. Vayishma Yitro, ma shmua shamaba. What did he hear and that he came? Kriyat Yam Suf u'milchemet Amalek. He heard about the splitting of the sea and the war with Amalek. Now, why is this something that is interesting and needs to be heard? Something that needs to be clarified is because not only if Yitro hears this, if anyone hears this, they'll be super impressed. Because two superpowers were neutralized. You had Amalek and Mitzrayim. Amalek and Pharaoh. Amalek was a very big nation with a very big army. Mitzrayim was the biggest nation on the planet at that time, the most successful area on the entire world. And the Jewish God defeated both Mitzrayim and Amalek. And Yitro, who's Kohen Midian, he's the head priest for Avodah Zarah, hears this, so it piques his interest. And he begins to make his way into the desert with Tzipporah, the two children. And he comes to visit Moshe. He tells him, I'm here with your wife and with your children. And then Pasuk Chet to Yud Aleph, it starts to give us a little bit of depth onto the conversation. Vaysaper Moshe lechotno et kol asher asa Hashem leParah u'lmitzrayim al odot Yisrael. Moshe begins to tell Yitro the whole story. He lets him know what happened in Mitzrayim and the whole story of the Exodus. Et kol hatela'a shematzatam b'derech v'yatzilem Hashem. He says, and he also let him know of all the travail that they had befallen on them on the way and how Hashem rescued them. Vayichad Yitro. It says that Yitro rejoiced. He was completely happy. The Chazal tell us, Vayichad, he says that his skin became like goosebumps. Later on we'll read the text. He was taken aback from what was reported to him. Al kol hatova asher asa Hashem Yisrael, all the goodness that Hashem has done for the Jewish people. Asher hitzilo miyad Mitzrayim, he saved them from the Egyptians. Vayomer Yitro, it's amazing how Yitro, the head priest of Avodah Zarah, is going to say the following words. Vayomer Yitro, Baruch Hashem. He says, blessed, God is blessed. Asher hitzil etchem miyad Mitzrayim, he saved you from the hand of the Egyptians. Umiyad Pharaoh, and from Pharaoh, an evil tyrant king, dictator. Asher hitzil et ha'am mitachad yad Mitzrayim, that he actually rescued the Jewish people beneath the iron fist, the hand of the Egyptians. Ata yadati ki gadol amonai. Now I know that God is great. Now I know that God is big. Mikol Elohim, more than any other deity. Because remember, he is a spiritual tourist. He goes round and round looking for spirituality. He worships this stone, it doesn't work. He worships this wood, it's a lie. He worships this statue, he worships that tree, he worships this picture, he worships that. Every single thing, it doesn't work. So when he sees everything that Hashem did for the Jewish people, what does he say? Ata yadati ki gadol Hashem mikol ha'elokim ki badavar shezadu alehem, because of the things that they the word zadu, it's as if they conspired against him. Now, what's interesting about what this pasuk is saying, the Yitro knew what the Egyptians and Pharaoh were conspiring against the Jews. My question to you is, how do you know, Yitro? Yitro, how do you know what Pharaoh wanted to do? How do you know what the Egyptians wanted to do? Not only that, why was he so impressed? He was so impressed. I mean, a lot of people heard about what happened to the Jewish people. A lot of people heard about the Exodus. Nobody came to the desert. Nobody got out of their house, started to travel and say, you know what, I got to see this for myself. Who is the only one that did it? Yitro. We see it over here. So why did Yitro know so much about Paro, Mitzrayim, and their plots? And why was he so impressed? Baruch Hashem, Asher Tzidchem Mitzrayim. So maybe we'll start to give some background to Yitro. You might not have known this, but Yitro was one of 3 advisors to Pharaoh. Masechet Sotam, the 11th page on the first side, says that the whole plot to turn the Jewish people into slaves was advice that was given to Pharaoh from his 3 advisors. Who were Pharaoh's 3 advisors? Bilam, Iyov, and Yitro. Those were his 3 advisors. As 3 advisors, what did they advise? So it says Bilam gave the advice. Bilam Hijiyetze Paro. Well, that's what happened to them. Bilam, that gave the advice to Pharaoh to kill the Jewish people, he got killed. Later on, we see that Pinchas HaKohen took care of him in the desert. Iyov was quiet. He didn't say, he was neutral. He didn't say to go for the advice or not to go for the advice. He was nidon bisurim. He was judged or was afflicted with afflictions. Yitro, who was there also, the minute he heard the advice to kill the Jews, he ran away. And what was his reward? Zahu mibnei banav sheishvu bilishkat hagazid. That what is it? That his progeny, his children's children, will eventually will eventually be in the courthouse in Bet HaMikdash. What was by the way, what was the advice that Bilam gave to Pharaoh? להשליך היאורה את כל הבן היולד. כל הבן היולד ליאורה תשליכו. So we have over here that every single boy that is born should be thrown into the Yaor. By the way, you should know, a lot of people think it was only for the Jews, but rather they also threw Egyptian boys into the Yaor. Why? Because they didn't want to take a chance. Who's going to take over? Who's going to take over the kingdom? So he said, if it's going to be a boy, whether it's Egyptian or a boy, until we don't see in the stars that he's gone, every boy, kol haben hayilod layoret teshichu. Midrash Rabbah says, well, let's say something else. On a physical level, he wanted to kill. That was the advice that was given, to kill the boys that were born. On a spiritual level, Paro was very cunning. He was very savvy. Because Pharaoh would keep the Jewish people very, very busy. He would give them no time to think of Hashem, and would give them no time to think of redemption. As a matter of fact, as slaves in Egypt, besides the fact that they were slaves, to enslave them and besides the fact that there was decree to kill all the males, later on, Pharaoh said, I have to not just destroy them physically, but I have to destroy them spiritually. And how do I destroy them spiritually? By not allowing them, by not giving them a chance to connect. Meaning, it's an epidemic today. The Yetzer Hara has people so busy that they have no time to connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Why? They're busy working. Same thing, Pharaoh used that same technique. What did he do? He tripled their quota and gave no supplies. We'll go to Perek Hey, Pasuk Yutchet. We'll just read the Pasuk over there. It says that Pharaoh ועתה לכו עבדו ותבן לא יינתן לכם ותוכן לבנים תיתנו. Meaning what? Your quota is times 3. And before we gave you supplies, now 0 supplies. You know how busy you're going to be right now? There's no time for anything. There's no time to connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There's no time to connect to your family. There's no time for spirituality. Above and beyond that, besides making their life tougher, they added shotrim v'noksim, officers and taskmasters, meaning people that are going to be monitoring. And if you're not going to bring your quota, then what's going to be? You're going to get hit. You're going to get beat up. And when the time came for the Jewish people to get redeemed, imagine their Mashiach comes, Moshe Rabbeinu comes and says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu sent me to save you. You are no longer going to be a slave. We're going to go out from Egypt through a desert into Eretz Yisrael, and we're going to get the Torah along the way. You'd think that after 86 years of hard labor and 210 years as slaves, they would be so happy for that news. You know what they said? Perek Vav Pasuk Tet. Vaydaber Moshe ken el bnei Yisrael velo shamu el Moshe. They didn't listen to Moshe. Why wouldn't they listen to Mashiach? Why wouldn't they listen to Moshe Rabbeinu? Please, no interruptions. Mikotze ruach u'ma'avodah kasha. The answer is yes, because he came with the code word pakod ifkod, so they knew it was him. Mikotze ruach u'ma'avodah kasha. Baruch haba. So what's mikotze ruach? They say kotze ruach is a shortness of breath and hard work. What's shortness of breath of hard work? Ruach comes from the word ruchaniyut. They had a short circuit in the ruchaniyut. They had a short circuit in their spirituality, which means what? You tell them, come and worship Hashem. I don't have time. Come learn the Torah scrolls on Shabbat. I'm too tired. Meaning what? They were so tired and so beat up and so used up as slaves that the minute you tell them something about Hashem, kotze ruach, short circuit. Why? Ma'avodah kasha. They're working hard. Similarly nowadays, you see people, they work so hard, they're so into money, they're so into finances, that the minute you tell them, hey, listen, there's a class on Monday night at 8 o'clock, I can't. What do you mean? I have to wake up tomorrow early for work. And what about, okay, so you know what? Come to shul on Shabbat. Shabbat, are you kidding me? That's when I sleep in. I'm tired all week. I work all week. I sleep on Shabbat. Oh, well, so you know what? So come with me at least on Sunday. The rabbi does a class and there's breakfast. No, Sunday, I do with the kids. Okay, so when? Kotze ruach. They short, so every time you tell somebody something about spirituality, they give you an excuse. Something about spirituality, they give you an excuse. Why? Because they're overworked. You have to have balance in life. A third for the family, a third for God, and a third for work. So like that you have balance in your life. They didn't have any balance. They're completely overworked. So that kotze ruach and avodah kasha, that even when Moshe Rabbeinu comes to tell them, I'm here to save you, they didn't. So we see that Pharaoh was very cunning, very smart. What did he do? He gave him physical labor. So physically they're tired, and physically they're spent, and physically they don't have the strength to do anything but work hard, fill their quota, and go home and rest. And on a spiritual level, it created a spiritual disconnect. Then even that Moshe Rabbeinu, the Mashiach of that generation, comes to save them. They say, I'm sorry, I have no time, I'm busy working. So it was very smart. So Yitro knew this. Yitro, knew that that was the plot of Pharaoh. Why? He was one of the advisors. He was part of the cabinet. He was constantly hearing in the background what they're going to do to the Jewish people. So when they came out of that, when they were saved by Kadosh Baruch Hu, when they were able to be freed, and now after all those miracles are in the middle of the desert, that is our parasha that starts off with Yitro saying, Vayishma Yitro. He heard all Yitro Kohen Midian Choten Moshe et kol asher Elokim Moshe Yisrael ki hotzi Hashem et Yisrael mimitzrayim. Now, let's take another lens now at the Jewish people. They're living in Egypt for 210 years, 86 years hard labor as slaves, and they're able to, and Pharaoh was successful in beating their spirituality to a level of almost completely diminished. They went to the 49th level of Tumah. Up until now, Pharaoh is doing phenomenal work. Physical labor, spiritual disconnect, 49th level of Tumah. You can't get worse than that as a Jew. So how did they get out? How did they get out? Because even once they did get out of Egypt, when they sat in front of, when they were in front of Yam Suf, and Sar Hayam, who was on a t'nai, Misheshet Yemei Bereshit, he was on a condition from the 6 days of creation, where he said that, where Hashem made a condition that by way of nature, everything has to work one way. But there's going to be a time we're going to go opposite of nature. That what? The ocean is going to split for my children, Bnei Israel. And that was the t'nai. But what happened? When Pharaoh was so successful at taking the Jewish people and lowering them to the 49th level of Tum'ah, that Sar Hayam, the minister of the ocean, when he saw all the Jewish people lined up in front of him, what did he say? I'm sorry, I see no difference between the Egyptians and the Jews. I thought you were going to send me these righteous individuals, these Bnei Israel, the sons of Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. They're going to be righteous. But what I have in front of me are people that are steeped to the 49th level of Tumah. They look identical to me spiritually, like the Egyptians. So when the Jewish people made it out, the sea split, and they went to the desert, and they're on the way to Matan Torah, Har Sinai, and the way to Israel, what does it say? Vaychad Yitro. He got goosebumps from this reality. It took a lot for that to be a reality of a nation that was enslaved to a free nation that came out of Pharaoh and that came out of Mitzrayim and that also fought Amalek. Before we continue on our lesson, I want to do one more lens. Pharaoh. Let's put ourselves in Pharaoh's shoes. Let's ask the same question. Pharaoh asked the same question. He sees that he did a good job. He was able to take the Jewish nation, which was, a welcomed alien resident, the brothers of Yosef, and he was able to turn them not only from resident aliens, but into slaves, but he was able to even get them to be, be enslaved into hard labor for 86 years, and with no cost, free labor, a workforce of free labor. And not only that, he had them physically beat and spiritually disconnected, and on the 49th level of Tumah. And Pharaoh says to himself, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? So they say every time you want to know what's, if you want to know what you did wrong, what did Chazal tell us? Lefashpesh b'ma'asav. So lefashpesh b'ma'asav. So Pharaoh pishpesh b'ma'asav. What did he say? He says, what is it? What is it? What is the one thing I didn't attack? What is the one thing? What is it that I missed over here? I thought I did everything wrong. How did I mess up? And all of a sudden, Pharaoh has this aha moment. He finally understands, says, I know what it is. He says, yes, halal of the avodah zarah, ve'halal of the avodah zarah. They were exactly like the Egyptians, except for what? Except for shalal. Except for three things that the Jewish people did not change while they were in Egypt. Shalal stands for Shem, Lashon, Livush. They never changed their name, they never changed their language, and they never changed their dress. The way that the way they were dressed. As a matter of fact, now this explains the pasuk in Shirat Hayam, when Pharaoh says, "Erdof asig achalek shalal." What's erdof? I'll chase. Asig, I'll catch up. And once I get him, what am I going to do? Achalek shalal. I'll take the one thing, which is the Shem, Lashon, Livush, and I'll split it up. That's the one thing that I was missing. I realized that had I kept up with it, had I known this, I would have attacked them on their names, on their dress, and on their language. Erdof asig achalek shalal. That's the Ben Ish Chai. Furthermore, it says in Midrash Rabbah, "B'zchut ma nigalu Yisrael mimitzrayim." What was the merit that the Jewish people had to get out of Egypt? Bishvil shlosha dvarim nigalu. He's also right. You got to stop screaming out, please. But he's also right. There's 5 things. I'm only going to mention 3. One of them is righteous woman. But the Midrash Rabbah brings 3, which later on actually brings 4. We'll read them all, but we'll only zone in on 3. As it says, "Bishvil shosha dvarim nigalu Yisrael mimitzrayim shelo shinu et shemam et leshonam ve'et levusham." The reason why the Jewish people got redeemed from Egypt is that they didn't change their name, they didn't change their speech, their language, and they didn't change their dress. Midrash Rabbah in Vayikra says a few more things. I'll just mention it just to have it in our learning. Rav Huna Amar b'Shem Bar Kapara. Rav Huna says the name of Bar Kapara. "Bishvil arba'a dvarim nigalu Yisrael mitzrayim. Shelo shinu et shemam et leshonam ve'lo amru lashon hara ve'lo nimtza benehem echad mehen parutz be'erva." He says that they didn't change their name, they didn't change their garb, they didn't change their speech, they didn't speak evil speech. There was no lashon hara between them, and there was nobody over there that was dressed improperly or promiscuous. Baal HaTurim says, Shemot Bnei Israel were able to be saved from Pharaoh, were able to be saved from the 49th level of Tum'ah, B'zchut Shalal. Imagine all the effort that he made, the Egyptians, for 210 years, and the hard labor, and the being in a toxic society that brought them down to 49th level of Tum'ah, but the fact that they didn't change their name, their dress, and their language, they were able to get out of Pharaoh, they were able to get out of Mitzrayim. In other words, there's a red line you don't cross. For the Jewish people in Egypt, there was a red line you don't cross. Meaning, Hakol tov v'yafeh, Egypt, Pharaoh, slavery, all the things that are going around, yes, that's our life. But no matter what, we don't change our name. And we don't dress like them, and we don't talk like them. That was their red line. And in the merit of that red line, the merit that they didn't transgress on the Shalal, they were able to get out of Egypt. So let's stop here and internalize this lesson. Because this is a mega lesson. This is a huge lesson. This is what allowed the Jewish people to get out of Egypt. We are in Egypt now, and we have our personal Egypt as well. We have our personal Mitzrayim. If we have a master key on how to get out of it, we have to know. And it doesn't involve Torah, and it doesn't involve because this is pre-Torah. This is before they received the Torah. And it doesn't involve rabbis because Moshe Rabbeinu only came later. This is something that they followed on their own as a culture from the society, from the family of Yaakov. So what do we see over here? That this is something that is maybe hard or maybe simple, but is definitely something that is able to get you out of Mitzrayim. If you're protecting your name, your dress, and your language. In order to really internalize this, we have to go into each section separately and learn it out. Name, dress, and speech. Let's start with Shem. It says, Shelo shinu et shemam. They didn't change their name. Katav ba'al haturim. Shmot b'nei Yisrael haba'im, rashi tevot shivya. Remember, in Parashat Shemot, what does it say? Ve'ele shemot b'nei Yisrael haba'im. If you take the first letters of Shemot b'nei Yisrael haba'im, the rashi tevot, the acronym is Shivya, which is what? Captive. That as soon as they went down to Egypt, they became captive. He says, however, she'af kshayu b'shivya, lo shinu et shemam, ela nas'u et shemot b'nei Yisrael. He says, yes, even though that they went down to Egypt, and even though that they were now, quote unquote, captives, they still didn't change their name. Because now let's read the pasuk. The first pasuk to Shemot has a completely different feel to it. Do you mind keeping the separate seating, guys? If you don't mind, guys, come over here. We can't have mixed seating. Sorry. Read the first pasuk in Shemot. It's unbelievable. Ve'ele Shemot b'nei Yisrael haba'im Mitzrayma et Yaakov ish v'toba Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda. Meaning, when they went down to Egypt, what was their names? Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda. They didn't change their names. Even though that they were in captives, even though that they went to a foreign nation, their names were still the Jewish names. Continues to say, Reuven v'Shimon nachtin, Reuven v'Shimon salkin. It's meaning, just like Reuven v'Shimon was their name when they came down to Egypt, that was their names also when they left Egypt. They never changed their names. Elu shemot bnei Yisrael haba'im Mitzrayma. Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda. And when they left, they were always also Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda. Furthermore, he says, ולא היו קוראים לראובן רופס, ולשמעון לא היו קוראים לוליני, וליוסף ליסטים, ולבנימין אלכסנדרי, ועל כן הדרך. Meaning, after some time, you change your name. There's nobody Shimon, I'm the only Shimon, right? So it says, no, they did not. As a matter of fact, it says, ששמירת וקריאת השמות היהודים, the fact that they protected their names, and they called each other by their Hebrew names as well, was not only midat tova v'minhag tov. It's not that it was a good practice. Rather, t'nai v'schut lavit ha'geula la'am Yisrael. It was the reason why they merited for the geula for the Jewish people. This is unbelievable. This is the power of a name. So we see that first thing is lo shinu shemam. They didn't change their name while they were there. Not when they came, not when they left. And that brought about zechut lavi geula. That gave them the merit for the redemption to come. Furthermore, it says, in regards to keeping keeping our names in Lashon HaKodesh. Let's go into that a little bit. Lashon HaKodesh. Yesh kedusha miyuchedet. Know that the Hebrew language is holy and is special and is different. And it's that language that the Jewish people have their names. Jewish people have Jewish names. Jewish names are Lashon HaKodesh. Lashon HaKodesh is something very special. It's above the norm. As a matter of fact, our names have meanings. I'll just use a few. Why is Reuven called Reuven? Reuben. What did she say? Leah said, look, here I have a boy. Reuben. Why is she called Shimon? Why is Shimon called Shimon? Ki shama Hashem kisnoa anochi. What was Shimon born? Because Hashem heard her prayers, her cries, because she was hated. Why is the brother called Levi? Hapam Yilave Ishi Oti Eli, which is what? She had Reuven, Shimon is holding hands, right? She's have Reuven on one hand and Shimon on the other hand. Now she has Levi. Who's going to hold the hand of Levi? It's a baby, right? So she needs a husband to hold him. So he says, Hapam Yilave Ishi. Now my husband's going to be with me. He has to hold the hand of the third baby. So we see every name even has a meaning. But even furthermore, not only that. What? Daniel, I don't know. I don't know. It's not an interactive class tonight. I'm sorry. I'm shying away from it tonight. Furthermore, it says that not only Lashon HaKodesh is special, we have to continue to use Lashon HaKodesh. Don't shy away from it. All the power is in using Lashon HaKodesh in this world. By not using Lashon HaKodesh, the Hebrew language in this world, you're actually weakening the power of you're weakening the power that we have access to. As a matter of fact, Lashon HaKodesh is the essence of everything in the universe. Everything in the universe is connected to the Hebrew language. Lashon HaKodesh hi hayesod lekol nivra velo rak leshmot bnei Israel. It's not just because of the names of the Jewish people. A person's name in Hebrew has power. But the entire foundation of the essence of every creation is with the Hebrew language and with the Hebrew letters. As it says in the beginning of Bereshit, Vayka Elokim larakia shamayim. What's shamayim? Sham yam. Over there is water. Over there's an ocean. So NASA, after trillions of dollars of trying to see if there's water in space, open up the first pasuk in Bereshit. It says, Vayka Elokim larakia shamayim, sham yam. Over there is water. That's it. Search stopped. Furthermore, it says, I'll just give maybe a few more. Some of the famous ones that are easier to understand. We said Shamayim, Sham Yam. We know that the word Kelev, Kulo Lev, it's an animal that is all heart. Let's say name Michael. What's Michael? Mi kamocha kel, right? Who's like you, Hashem? Meaning we can deconstruct almost every word in Hebrew, get to its shoresh, get to its root, and get to its essence. Furthermore, when it comes to a person's name, Shem Yehudi, the name of a Jew, not only does the name have a meaning, and not only does the name have powers, but even the letters that are being used have a power. Each letter is like a pipeline of drawing down spiritual abundance from the heavens. It says, Kol ot v'milah yesh la segula ruchanit miuchedet. Every word, every letter has spiritual powers. והרוצה לגלות את מהות הדבר או את האדם נקרא בשם זה, if you want to discover the essence of something, or if you want to see the essence of even an individual, of a human being, take a look at the letters that comprise his name. Pay attention to the word that tells you the essence of that creation. והאותיות הם צינורות של שפע, and the letters are pipelines of abundance. ומשפיעים על מזל האדם. And a person's luck is affected by the letters of his name. As a matter of fact, we see that there's some people that change their name or add a letter to their name in order to change their luck. The most famous one, Avram lo molid, Avraham molid. When Avraham Avinu came to Kadosh Baruch Hu, he says, listen, I'm looking in the stars, and we see that I'm not going to have any, it looks like Eliezer is going to inherit me. My assistant, my helper, is going to inherit all of my Yerusha. He tells him, no, get out from this, I'm going to show you. This is what you see in the stars. You're above the stars. Avram lo molid. Avraham. And he changed his name. He added a hey, hu molid. We see that one letter, changed it. Sarai became Sarah. Sarai became Sarah. We see also a lot of people, when they get sick, they say, his name is Yosef Chaim. They add the word Chaim for it. Or sometimes people, they have a name, they go to a rabbi that understands about names. He says, change the name, add a letter, take a letter, whatever it is. But we see that the letters are spiritual pipelines and they have a huge effect on the luck of the person. This is why it's so important to have your Jewish name be the name that people call you. Because when Sharone becomes Sean, and when Hanania becomes Kenny, and when Tzvika becomes Stephen, and when Mazal becomes Madison, and when Batchen becomes Betty, and when Doron becomes Darren, and when Lior becomes Larry, the bracha comes down to Sharon, it comes down to Tzvika, to Mazal, to Batchen, and they say, I have a bracha, where is Sharon? There's a Sean over here. Where is Mazal? There's a Madison over here. Okay, return to sender. Return to sender. Go up. Go back up. It's the wrong address. Because if you're not calling yourself by your Hebrew name, where the spiritual pipeline is that draws all the shefa to you, you've changed it. Nobody calls you by that name anymore. You're not that person. You've changed your identity in a negative way. Return to sender. So bracha is for Sharon and not Sean. And it's for Yaakov and not Jake. And it's for Rachel, not Rocky or Ricky. And it's for Israel, not for Izzy. We see that I say this because I speak from experience. I think I've said this in the class many times before, but I'll say it again. I remember, when I was younger, Sharon is not a common name in America. So when I would say my name, right away, there'd be like a 5-minute conversation. Oh, so exotic. Oh, where's it from? Where you going? Or the people wouldn't read Sharon. They would say, oh, Sharon. Oh, no, it's not Sharon. It's Sharon. You get so tired. You know what? I'm Sean. Leave me alone. I don't want the back and forth. I don't want this. But meanwhile, I just forfeited all the shefa, all the brachot. Who knows if my great-great-great-grandmother had a bracha for a great-great-great-grandson? It's coming to the world in 2006. And where's Sharon? Return to sender. We have a Sean over here. Sharon became Santino Gamba. What happened? No, I'm looking for Sharone Moshe Lankry. No, this is Santino Gamba over here. It's a different name altogether. Thank you. So we see over here how it's very important to be connected to the Hebrew name. As a matter of fact, it says about Yosef. Yosef, not us. Yosef, the viceroy to Egypt. He was the second in command to Pharaoh. He's one of the few people in history that ruled over Kippat HaOlam. The whole world he was able to rule over. And when Yosef was in that position, what does it say over there in the Pasuk? Vayikol nefesh yotzei Yaakov she'im nafesh, veYosef haya b'Mitzrayim. What's veYosef haya b'Mitzrayim? It says that even though that Yosef reached such a high position in society in Egypt, who was in Egypt? Josephus? Josephino? No. Yosef. Everybody knew Yosef in Mitzrayim. It continues to say, Lo diacha. What does this pasuk come to tell us? VeYosef haya b'Mitzrayim, and Yosef was in Egypt. Lo diacha tzidkato shel Yosef, to show you how righteous Yosef is. Yosef ro'eh et hatzon aviv, he was Yosef. Yosef the sheep herder, he was Yosef. Yosef that was the king of Egypt, he was Yosef. Meaning it doesn't matter whether he was on the lowest level or the highest level, he always stayed Yosef. He never changed his name. Now, we know that almost everyone has a Hebrew name and an English name. So let's ask a question. Are we doing something wrong by going by two names? A Hebrew name and an English name? And is it appropriate to act such a way? Is it appropriate to have two names? Is it appropriate to have a Hebrew name and an English name? Can Yosef be also Joseph? Can Yaakov be Jacob or Jake? Is there anything wrong with that? So there's several opinions that go in several directions. As it says, Matsui etzel rabim ma'achen b'dinot hayam. Those people that don't live in Israel, people that live in the diaspora, it's very common that they have Hebrew names and English names, or whatever, not a Hebrew name, but they live in Europe, in South America. You know, we have a guy in our shul, his name is Eliezer. What's his Spanish name? Gustavo. What? What's the connection? But that's what it is. Okay, so it says, when they go out there into the world for business and for their network and for the people, they use foreign names. So, is it appropriate? Is there an isur? Is it prohibited? What is it allowed? So let's go into several opinions. Maharam Shik says it's isur deoraita. He says this is a biblical prohibition. You can't have a name that is not Jewish. Why? Because it says asur lan lidamot legoyim velechet bechukotehem. We can't go in the ways of the Gentiles and be like them. From the pasuk, vavdil otchem min ha'amim. That's it. Once he gives you a pasuk, it's very hard to get out of it. He says, and I separate you from the nations. How do I separate you? Well, the lashon, as we say, we say it in the kiddush of the Chagim. Right? They say he uplifted us from all the languages. So the Maharam Shik says it's a sur deoraita. And he says, and I'll strengthen my point. Not just that it says vavdil etchem min ha'amim, but why did the Jewish people get redeemed from Egypt? Shenigalu misham shelo shinu et shemam. You see that the only reason why the Jewish people got out of Egypt because they didn't change their name. That's not proof in itself that you have to stick to your Jewish names. That's his opinion. Tzfat Pa'aneach, the Gaon Mirogachov says, Asur lishtamesh b'shemot hagoyim. You're not allowed to use the Goyish names. However, efshar letargem et Hashem. You can translate the name, right? Yaakov can be Jackie, right? Moshe can be Maurice, right? You could change the you can change the, you can like translate it, so that's okay. Meaning, as long as the name that you're using is similar to it in the Goyish names, that's fine. Igrot Moshe says there's no isur at all. No, you actually can do it completely. Why? He says this whole concept of sticking to your name was only to the time before receiving the Torah, because that's the only way that we could actually be different from the Jews. Now that we have the Torah, we're completely different by the Jews. We have 613 ways to differentiate ourselves from being Jewish. Before the Torah, what could possibly make you different from the Gentiles? Your name, your dress, and the way you speak. So since that was before Matan Torah, it was necessary. But after Matan Torah, we have so many things that differentiate us, so it doesn't matter about the name. Continues to say that a person needs to say that the Isur Medina lishtamesh b'shmot nochim. He says that en Isur Medina lishtamesh b'shmot nochim. He says really, halachically, there's no problem in using Gentile names. Meaning, we saw that the Anusim, you know what the Anusim were? People that had to convert in Portugal, in Spain. And what did they do? They went by Gentile names. There were Jews that were called Christopher. There were Jews that were called, Maria. Huh? Maria. Jews that were Maria. Very good. So it says what? Now that it's after that time period where there was inquisitions and all these pogroms, can they continue? He says, yeah, since they're now wheeling and dealing in Spain and in Portugal, they could still keep their names. However, midat chasidut itrachek mehem k'chol efshar. But if you want to go above the letter of the law, definitely don't use your name. There's no longer a danger over here that you have to use that name. It's no longer that you have to assimilate, or that not assimilate, that you have to hide your identity in order to stay alive, in order to make a living. You don't have that danger anymore. So you don't have to anymore. That leniency was for that time period. Now that we don't have that time period, it's not necessary. So don't do it anymore. However, en isur klal ishtamesh b'shmot hagoyim, he says there's not a halachic prohibition not to use their names. I just want to throw in, since we're talking about names, I just want to throw in a couple of more things before we move on. It says, how about not naming people names of Gentiles, but naming people after names of wicked people, right? What if somebody wants to call their son Nimrod? Nimrod, right? I had a friend in school, his name was Nimrod. How about if I want to call a person wants to call his son Blake, Balak? Balak was worse than Bilam. He was the biggest anti-Semite, one of the biggest anti-Semites in Jewish history. Can a guy call his son Blake? He said, "Oh, it's from the Torah." Well, Balak, it's from the Torah. The thing is, he's a Rasha. How about Ishmael? We have Rabbi Ishmael in the Gemara. So how can we call somebody Ishmael and he's a Jew? We have Rabbi Ishmael, one of the biggest rabbis in Tanaic history, in Gemara history, that his name is Rabbi Ishmael. So on Ishmael, they said Ishmael did teshuvah at the end, and also it's not so much that he was wicked, but nevertheless it's also a name that Hashem gave to him. So if Hashem gave the name, so it's a good name. So there's a lot of conditions, but nevertheless, do not call your child after a name of somebody wicked. But overall, when it comes to name, remember, the spiritual connection in the Hebrew letters and their powers in a person's life is everything. You want to connect to the Shin and to the Resh and to the Vav and the Nun of your name. Each letter has a power. Each letter defines you. I keep saying it because I'm so tempted. There's so many good classes, but I'm so tempted to do a full class on letters. On letters and Be'ezat Hashem also. Be'ezat Hashem, my list is like this. Number 15 on the list. You know how many things are there already? I also want to do one on colors. This beautiful one on colors. But nevertheless. All right.
What is the most holy color? Amen. What is the most holy color?
They say purple. So, because it has to do with Malchut.
And Segula, Segula.
Yeah. So, let's go now. So we see, connect to the Hebrew name. I want to tell you, I said I used to go by the name Sean. The minute I started, I said, also, sometimes you are, when you're in commerce, and it's very interesting that the rabbis mention commerce over here. Sometimes when you're in commerce, you know what's the problem? You might have the best product, and you might even have the best price, but you know why they won't buy from you? Because you're a Jew. Because you have a Jewish name, because it's a Moshe. So what do? So you, Maurice, how you doing? You can't tell. Is he not? It doesn't matter. It's a good price, a good product. I'll buy from him. So sometimes it was the name. So I can say back in the days when I was in sales, I held back from saying my Jewish name. 1, for making more sales. 2, God forbid should I do Chilul Hashem in what I do. I don't want it to be back on the Jewish name. But then I saw but when you started to learn about the Hebrew letters in the name, I said, what is all this nonsense? I quit that job. I got a better job and I started to go by Sharone, Moshe, Lankry. And boy, the things turn around. Why? Because I finally tapped into the letters of my name and the power of the Hebrew language. And I'm not, and now I even have friends from 10, 15 years ago that still call me Sean. I said, who's that? I don't let them call me by that because they're taking away from the power of my name. And they say even if you have an English name and a Hebrew name, make sure that somebody calls you by your Hebrew name at least 3 times a day. So there's a chazakah that you're connected to that name, that you're connected to that to the essence of those letters. Now let's move on to. We said Shalal, Shem. We got some background on name. I want to move forward to Livush. Garb. It's going to be till the end. Livush. So we see it says in Shulchan Aruch about dressing. Fashion, there's trends. They come and they go. People like to dress, the women. Sometimes it's short, sometimes it's long. Sometimes it's tight, sometimes it's loose. Sometimes it's colors, sometimes it's patterns. All that means nothing to us. A Jew's fashion is dictated by tzniut. It doesn't matter what decade or century you live in. Our fashion is always the same. Men or women, tzniut, modesty. Doesn't matter which fabric, doesn't matter what does. Shatnez, nevertheless, but we don't care about the fabrics, the colors, the designs, the patterns. Our fashion is tzniut. It's like a timeless fashion. Doesn't matter what century you live in, it's always tzniut. For the Goyim, it's different. Look what Shulchan Aruch says. אין הולכים בחוקות העובדי כוכבים ולא מדמין להם. Shulchan Aruch says that we don't go in the ways of the Gentiles and we don't emulate them. ולא מדמין להם. We don't emulate them. We don't copy them. ולא ילבש מלבוש מיוחד להם. And don't wear something that is unique to the Gentiles. אלא יהיה מובדל מהם במלבושיו ובשאר מעשיו. A person should constantly be separated from them by the way that he dresses and in the way that he acts. Shulchan Aruch says, don't dress like the Gentiles. If now the trend is super baggy, don't be like them. If the trend now becomes everybody wears plaid, don't be like them. And not only in the dress, but he says furthermore, don't act like them. What makes you different as a Jew is that you're different from the Gentiles. You have to make an effort to be different from them, even with the way you dress. The Rama says, "Shalovesh bigdei nochrim," somebody who wears clothes like the Gentiles, over al ubechukotehem lo telechu, is a transgresses on a biblical transgression of, in their laws, don't follow, don't go in their ways. However, don't go in their ways has a dual pathway when it comes to clothes. Echad bebgadim shel pritzut. You can't. This is two things. That you can't wear clothes that lack modesty, and the second condition is bebgadim shelovshim otan leshem dat upulchan. Clothes that people wear for a religion or a cult. So in other words, can I go buy Gucci? The answer is yes. Yeah. But all the Gentiles wear it. Yeah. But is it tzniut? It's tzniut. Yes, it's covering. That's fine. And do they wear it like, do they all wear Gucci suits to go to church? No, they don't. So it's not used for religion. And is it for a cult? Is there like a group of people of Avodah Zarah that only wear? No? Okay. Mutar lachem, mutar lachem, mutar lachem. So it says, Aval b'ma sheyesh bo ta'am. But if there are clothing that Gentiles do wear, like what? That they do wear as a uniform altogether. Like what? Doctors, nurses, mechanics, or like professional apparel, police officer. You can't say, oh, they're all wearing it. It's like a cult. It's like a group of people. No. For something like that, that is permissible. The Maharik says, שאפילו הנהיגו ישראל במלבוש אחד, והגויים במלבוש אחר. Even if we have a reality where the Gentiles dress one way, and we dress differently, אין מלבוש ישראל מורה על היהדות או על הצניעות יותר מאותו שהגויים נוהגים בו. But if the dress of the Gentiles and the Jews has not much of a difference. The Gentile fashion of the time is modest. And the Jewish apparel is also modest. So there's not a difference between the two. Meaning you can say, this is what the Goyim wear. But is it modest? Is it sanua? It's similar, right? The men still wear suits that are what? Long pants and a jacket, shirt and a tie. 99% of the Gentiles, that's their professional apparel. So what, the Jew can't wear that? Of course we can wear that. Why? Because it goes to the guidelines of tzniut. And it doesn't have anything to do with the cult or with the religion. So as long as it follows those guidelines, it can pass. However, when I learned this, I think about today. Because we always have to make a lesson practical. When we see a young man, A beautiful neshama, a Yehudi, wearing baggy clothes and a hat backwards and flashy sneakers. Who is he emulating over here? The rabbi from the shul or the rapper from television? There's no question when you see that individual, you're saying, where is your influence coming from? Is it coming from the Bet Midrash or is it coming from the street? So over there, it's easy to say, hey, you're dressed like a goy. You have to wear different jeans maybe. Jeans is allowed, but not like that. T-shirt is allowed, but not like that. Hat is allowed, but not like that. Because why? It comes, its source, its shoresh is goyim. And you are looking like them. Now we said, what saved us from Egypt? That we didn't look like them. Lo shinu et shemam, velo shinu et livusham, velo shinu et leshonam. They didn't change their apparel. So the person can tell me, but it's sniut. Yes, absolutely. But do you look like Moshe Rabbeinu or Moses the rapper? Which one? It's two different things. So it's very, very nogea to our generation.
Maybe take the hat off.
Or maybe just turn it around, whatever. But, use it for what it is, to block the sun out, for whatever it is. Again, I'm not asking you to turn into a square, right? Be a little nerd, walking around looking like, everybody wants to express themselves through fashion. I get it. But there's a way to do it. Find your own fashion. You don't have to be a carbon copy of what you saw in the videos. Okay? So, the question here is then, what do we do with these people? What do we do with these children? What do we do with these adults? That they look like goyim. That was the red line that the Jews in Egypt said, Atkan, we don't pass this. We don't look like them. We don't talk like them. We don't dress like them. Masechet Sanhedrin, on the 72nd page, on the second side says, שרוך הנעל, לגבי עקתה דמסנה, שרוך הנעל, שאם דרך הנוחים לקשור כך ובדרך ישראל בעניין אחר, כגון שיש צד יהדות בדבר ודרך ישראל להיות צנועים, אפילו שינוי זה שאין כאן מצווה, אלא מנהג בעלמא, יקדש את השם בפני חבריו ישראל, והבפרסיה מדבר ישראל. I'm saying something over here in Masechet Sanhedrin in regards to something that they were dealing over there about a shoelace. He says, even if a shoelace, that the way that the goyim do what? The new style, loose lace. Right? What's loose lace? That they take it and they make it loose and they don't tie it. They leave the two strings hanging on the side. Right? Right? They love that. Who does that? The goyim do it. Masechet Sanhedrin does. If they lace their shoes differently, and the Jews do it differently, how do we do it? Normal, 2 bunny ears, and you close it up, right? So, or they do, they do it like this, or maybe they use a thicker one or a color one. What do you do? What do you do? Not even their shoelaces. I'm copying them. I have to watch out from that. Masechet Sanhedrin, you have to watch out. Why? Because there's a tzad Yahadut and a tzad Israel, and there's a tzad of the Goyim. You have to look like the part. You have to choose a side. You have to live out your role. You have to be a Jew and look like a Jew. Continues to say, and even if you want to say that you can't lace your shoes the same way that they do, because the Jewish people don't act like this. These people invented it like this and like that, and all the goyim, it's the fad. That's it. Right now, it's a blue shoelace on the right and purple shoelace on the left. That's it. Everybody's doing it. Comes Moshe, his father tells him, for my bar mitzvah, I want the blue lace on the right and purple on the left. What do? The father is saying, whatever you want, it's your bar mitzvah, or you can teach him a lesson right there and then. Listen, we don't do like the goyim. You're just starting your bar mitzvah. You're just becoming a God-fearing Jew. You're about to start keeping the mitzvot. You're going to start with your shoes. The first thing you put in the morning is you tie your shoes. You're going to act like them. You're going to start to follow them. Next time they're going to say no shoelaces. You're going to do that. And then they're going to tell you no pants, a skirt. You're going to do that because that's what happened. You see. They're not people. They're sheeple. What happened the past 2, 3 years, 5 years? What happened? I can't believe the past 2 years. Men wearing skirt like nothing. Men wearing heels like nothing, like it's the norm. Where did this come from? It's a trend. That's it. The shigaon sometimes hits a wall. That's it. They did bell bottoms. They did butterfly collars. They did tight. They did capri. They did all the different styles. Manishar. Let's dress like women. What's left? Continues to say, Dafka sheyesh tzad yadut b'davar. When there's something for you to decipher yourself, to be different, to look like a Jew, a person should take it upon himself to do that. V'kadesh et Hashem b'fnei Yisrael chaveru. And a person should do that, to do a kiddush Hashem in front of his friend. That his friend comes and says, it's just shoelaces. Yes, it's just shoelaces. And I'm sure, you know what, halachically, it's probably mutar. But you know what I'm going to do? I don't want to look like that guy. I don't want to look like those people. I don't want to look like that genre. I want to look like a Jew. When people see me in the street, I want them to see me like Yaakov, not like Esav. So a Jew's fashion is dictated by tzniut. Certain areas of the bodies are covered. The men have kippah, the tzitzit, the women have head covering. And the minute you say this, some of the people are going to say, so what do you want me to do? Want me to go to work in a jalabiyah? What? You want me to go back to 1,000 years ago? That how everybody was tzniut, even the men wore long dresses like it used to be? Like the Kohen Gadol? How do you want to, like the long garb? How do you want me to go? I live in 2025. So it's very simple. You don't have to be an extremist. Men wear suits, men wear uniforms, men wear modest clothing. And the women wear dresses, they wear skirts. And the norm designs, the norm fashion, plus tzniut. That's it. Our fashion always comes back full circle. Just be modest in the way that you dress. Let's get to the last part of Lashon. Lashon is the speech. And here, this was going to be the shortest one out of all of them because the speech is Lashon HaKodesh. Meaning what? It's either you speak Egyptian or you speak Hebrew, right? So you say, okay, I only speak Hebrew. So how are you going to communicate with the Egyptians? You had to say, imagine if we were in America and all we do is speak Hebrew. It's impossible. You have to speak English. You have to speak the language of the place where you're at. So what's Lashon HaKodesh? What's this thing that we didn't change our Lashon? So, something incredible is that first of all, every Jew needs to familiarize themselves with Lashon HaKodesh. The language, the words, the letters that the world was created in. As it says, with 10 utterances, Hashem, with the Hebrew language, with the Hebrew words, with the Hebrew letters, He created this entire world that we're in. So we have to preserve the fact that we are privy to that to be our mother tongue. That is our Lashon. And it's Lashon HaKodesh. It's a holy language. The way we refer to the language it's not English, Hebrew, Ivrit, Anglit. It's Lashon HaKodesh. That means that there's sanctity, holiness, that has powers in it. It's very important that either our first or our second language be Hebrew. If you're an English speaker, you have to make an effort. I truly believe if you want to connect to the religion in the right way, or especially to tefillah, especially to prayer, you have to start picking up Hebrew words along the way. You have to challenge yourself to adding 5 words a week, 10 words a week, 30 words a month, something where you're little by little working on your Hebrew vocabulary, so you can first of all have Lashon HaKodesh. That's number 1. Number 2, understand the words that are coming out of your mouth. You're reading the Torah, you're reading Hebrew, you're praying. I don't know how people do it without understanding it. I always imagine it as if somebody gave me a book with 2,000 pages in Chinese and says, you read this, you're going to connect to Hashem in a way. What do you mean? I don't understand a word that I'm saying. How am I going to connect to God? Oh, by the way, do it 3 times a day, 5 times on the holidays. Oh, really? But I don't understand a word. Just do it. Don't say, praying to Hashem. How can you pray? How can you spend all that time and not understand the words that you're reading? That's why it's good to invest in time, that if your first or second language should be Hebrew, Lashon HaKodesh. Secondly, when we say Lashon HaKodesh, means that we didn't sound like them. We might have spoken Arabic, right? Or we might have spoken Hebrew as well. But being Lashon HaKodesh, meaning that our Lashon was Kodesh. Our tongue was holy. We didn't sound like them. We sounded different. We spoke, and when we spoke, we sounded like Yaakov. We didn't sound like Esav. The way a Jew speaks should be different. There should be a difference in the way we sound. When we speak, we should be respectful. There should be no foul language, no cursing. Shem Hashem shagur befiv. That when a Jew speaks, Baruch Hashem, Be'ezrat Hashem, God willing, Chasdei Hashem, God is great, Be'ezrat Hashem should have a blessed day, God bless you. How does a Jew sound? A Jew should sound different. When you speak, it should be different from how everybody else speaks. You should be respectful. You should not curse, because the same mouth that's reading the Pesukim, the same mouth that's saying the prayers in God's name, shouldn't be that trash can 15 minutes later with the F-bomb and the S-bomb and this, that, and that. Makes no sense. It's Lashon HaKodesh. You use your Lashon to sound like Kodesh. When a Jew speaks, he sounds different. Furthermore, in today's culture, I don't know, I'm speaking for myself. Again, I'm not speaking from the top. I'm deep in it. I'm dealing with this myself. I come home, my kid goes to yeshiva, Baruch Hashem. And, in the home, we definitely don't talk slang from the street. And all of a sudden, the minute he turned to be a teenager, all of a sudden I hear, I used to say before, oh, Abba, it's a lovely suit. I go to, why, thank you, my son. Appreciate it.
Now what does it say?
Now, Abba has mad drip. What? Mad drip?
I didn't know what that meant. I was using it.
Yeah, I said it's the slang of now. Yeah. Okay.
Generation.
Oh, but he used to say, I'm not so sure about that. Oh, sus. What?
Yeah.
Meaning suspect. That's suspect. I'm like, what? Hold on, let me go to Google. Street slang. Sus? What does that mean? What's going on? Some way, somehow, it seeps in. Why? We're surrounded by the Gentiles. Yesterday, I finished, I'm talking to my son, I say, yesterday, thank you. Yesterday, I played one-on-one with Shlomo. The score was 7-1. Cap. Huh? Cap means like lie, not true. Meaning, what? So I had to take him to the side. I say, we don't talk like that. That's not what we do. We don't sound like that. We can't sound like that. We have to be different. You know why? Because when you go into the supermarket, there's not a single Gentile trying to sound like you. There's not a single Gentile that's trying to say, Baruch Hashem, you should have a blessed day, everyone. That's how a Jew sounds. So if you're not going to do it, who's going to do it? If you're going to be like them, then what's left of us? Assimilation is the silent killer of the Jewish people. When we're around Gentile societies, little by little, we act like them, we talk like them, we think like them, and before you know it, we dress like them, we talk like them, and we even take their names, and then starts the tattoos and the shiksa. So we see things that don't originate from Jewish culture, things that don't originate from our heritage, things that come from a different culture, things that come from the street, is something that we have to, that's the red line. The Jews in Egypt said, the red line, Shem Lashon Libush. Us too. We're no different. Why? Because it says, Henga'alti etchem, acharit kereshit. The final geula is going to be like the first geula. Whatever happened in the Exodus, in the last few parashiot, everything that happened there is going to repeat itself. Meaning, the Jewish people are going to be in a place that they're on the 49th level of Tumah, and only Shalal is going to rescue them. Only the fact that they hold on to their name, that they held on to their dress and to their language, is what's going to make them have the merit to be redeemed. That's the exact same thing. That's the exact same thing in the future. Now, in Ikveta de Mashiach, the only difference, before, when they were in Egypt, they can only go down to level 49. After we receive Matan Torah, we can now go to level 50. We can go to level 50 of Tum'ah. So we said, but level 50 of Tum'ah is the point of no return. Once you go to 50, you can't get out. It says, yes, that's without the Torah. If you have the Torah, you can go into the 50 and get out of it. And that's the Ikveta de Mashiach. The Arizal says, the Ikveta de Mashiach, we have to pick up Nitzotzot on the 50th level of Tum'ah and get out. So even when we go to the 50th level of Tum'ah, how are we going to get out? Don't pass that red line. Don't pass that red line. What's our red line? We don't change our names. We don't dress like them. We don't talk like them. Sound like a Jew. Dress like a Jew. Act like a Jew. Be proud to be a Jew. If we just put the final generation, and with this I'll conclude, under a microscope, the generation that we're in right now, we said, let's do one by one. Let's grade ourselves. Let's do the name, Shem, name. So we said, well, almost everybody has a Hebrew and English name. Almost everybody has one. So what did we say? We said, listen, there's an opinion that it's Isur Deoraita. One says, you can use it just for business. So you use a name that's similar to your name, so that's okay. And then we said it's not even don't even pay attention to it, and just make sure that your name, that they say the Hebrew name, say that the Hebrew name is being said 3 times. However, we learned at the beginning of the class that it's Zchut lehavi geula. By going by our Hebrew name, it's a merit to bring Mashiach. So if we're Mashiach minded, and if we want this craziness to stop and anti-Semitism to go away and Mashiach to come, what's going to help? Go by your Jewish name. That's how you can bring Mashiach. Go by your Jewish name. Secondly, levush. We said garb. How can we, if we put ourselves under a microscope, well, okay. Jews, how did Jews dress? You know what? Depending on the fashion of the time. Jews dress exactly like the time. Okay, fine. So what's the only condition? Tzniut. Just be modest. Just be modest. But if you start to wear your clothes, right? Let's just say, secular Jews, they like to emulate the West. They like to dress like the rappers, maybe, or some of the latest fashion from the movies or from the music videos. So there you're already like on a little bit of a red line. Like, what are you doing? Now you're really not just wearing the latest trends, but you're emulating a genre, an artist, or some sort of a street culture. Over there, it becomes a little bit of a gray area, and it's better to pass on goyish fashion and stick on tzniut. When it comes to tzniut, by the way, when we're 80% secular means that not everybody, we're not scoring very high on the tzniut side when it comes to the Jewish nation. I saw something beautiful. It says that almost every word in Hebrew has a singular and a plural, except for the word Adam. What's Adam? It says in the Nevi'im that Am Yisrael nikaim Adam ve'omot ha'olam lo nikaim Adam, that we are called Adam. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says Am Yisrael are called Adam. What's interesting about Adam? That's singular. How do you say Adam in plural? No, Ish, Anashim, Gever, Gvarim, Adam. There is no. There is no. There is no, because Adam includes both the man and the woman. So why is the Jewish people Adam? Because we're all one. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says the Jewish people are Adam because we're all one. There's no plural. The Adam is the plural. We're all as one. So when we're considered all as one, we're graded all as one. So if 60, 70, 80% of the secular people are not doing it tzniut, we're failing there. So on Shem, we found some leniency. Levush, we're starting to see, we could score better, okay? Especially with the women. What about Lashon? Do we sound like Jews when we speak? When we said first, Lashon HaKodesh, whether it's your first language or second language, you should try to make that part of your life, understanding Lashon HaKodesh. But do we sound like Jews when we speak? When we speak, do we talk about Ma'asim Tovim? Do we talk about mitzvot? We talk about Torah, Chazdei Hashem, Emunah? Meaning when a person talks, you ever hear two Jews speaking? Two Jews speaking should be about what? Where are you this Shabbat? Do you have somewhere to stay? Oh, good. How are the kids doing? Oh, Chazdei Hashem. I hope all is well. I pray that everything should be good. Things are bad. Oh, have emunah, everything's better. That's a Jewish conversation. That's two people talking, Jewish-minded, Torah-minded, as opposed to, what's up, bro? Going to the game? Cab. Even to go to the game, there's a way to do it. There's a way to do it. When we talk about all things that Goyim talk about, so what is it? What are you talking about right now? What are you talking about? The Grammys? What are you talking about? The Super Bowl? What are you talking about? The commercials on TV? You're talking about Trump? Test yourself. What are you talking about here? The past 24, 48 hours. If you're talking about that, that's it. Check yourself. You have a Goyish mentality. You have Goyish speech. You're talking about Goyish things. And that's what they're saying. They protected their speech. They protected their Lashon. Our Shalal needs to be on point if we're going to merit the Geulah. I want to say one final thing, that maybe we could rebrand Shalal to do something else. Because if they merited to the Geulah because of their Shem, Lashon, and Livush, I saw somewhere else that it also says that if we keep it, we also merit to the Geulah. Shalal can stand actually for Shabbat, Lashon, Livush. Why? Because it says in Masechet Ta'anit on the first side, Ilu hayu Yisrael meshamrim Shabbat achat ketikuna miyad haya ben David. It says even if we would have kept one Shabbat the way properly, Mashiach ben David would have come. And in Masechet Shabbat, on the 118th page, on the second side, it says, Ilmale Shemur Yisrael Shabbat Rishona, over there in the desert, if they would have kept that first Shabbat, Lo Shalta Bahen Uma Velashon, not a country or a different language would have been able to take care of it. It would have been pure, holy Jews that nobody can control us. Shabbat. So I thought to say, if Shabbat has the power to bring Geulah, just like Shalal has the power to bring Geulah, I want to put this lens of Shalal on Shabbat. Shabbat, how do we keep Shabbat? With Lashon and Livush. We know that we're instructed on Shabbat. What type of Lashon to have on Shabbat? Divrei Kodesh velo Divrei Chol. Right? We're actually instructed not to in the song Ki Yesh Mera Shabbat, Ki Yesh Mera Shabbat, Divrei Melachim or Divrei Sechora. Even if you want to talk about Divrei Melachim, Trump, or Divrei Sechora or house business, no. Only things are holy. How's the parasha? What a pasuk? What a haftarah? How's the family? Everything's okay. Meaning Shabbat talk. We're supposed to guard our speech on Shabbat. And what's the livush? We wear the best. On Shabbat, best suit, best shirt, best belt, best shoes. You have an outfit for Shabbat. Why? Because we protect the Shabbat. We honor the Shabbat. It's sometimes you go to a shul and people show up to shul in jeans and a t-shirt and sneakers. And there's two ways to go about it. One way is you say, maybe they don't know. But sometimes you see people and you say, no, but actually this guy knows for sure. And when you go over to him, you say, Tzaddik, why are you wearing jeans to shul? You know what he tells you? You know how much these jeans cost? $700. I was like, wow, that's more than my entire outfit. Psh, $700 jeans? I go to him, but with a t-shirt? He says, see this t-shirt? $380 t-shirt. It's like, what? This guy's $1,000 outfit. Kol hakavod. But you know what it is? These overpriced street clothes are nowhere close to a $100 suit.
It's still street clothes.
It's nothing close to a $100 suit. Why? A suit is respectable. It honors the Shabbat. And even in the way that it looks, and it's commonly accepted as the elegant clothing, as they say, or higher level of clothing. So even if a person spends a lot of money, but it's still street clothes, I literally see people coming, they're paying hundreds of dollars for ripped jeans. They pay for it to be ripped. According to Kabbalah, they say that ripped jeans, it's not good. It's as if it says that the ripped jeans, it's as if they have a hole, the rip that they have on their clothes is a rip in their neshama. It opens up an opening. You have to be very, very careful with the clothes the people wear. So we see, I'll tell you after. So we see over here that it's very important, the Shalal, through the lens of Shabbat. Shabbat. How do we act on Shabbat? If we keep one Shabbat, we bring Mashiach. And what's the Lashon on Shabbat? No divrei chol, only divrei kodesh. And what is the livush? The livush, we dress differently. We dress differently for Shabbat. Oh, there it is. Copy, paste. Shabbat is the practice of how to be Jew during the week. The way that you practice, the way you interact on Shabbat, the way you dress on Shabbat, the way you speak on Shabbat, is your practice to be what? The 6 days of the week. How to be the Shem, Lashon, Livush. You learn from Shabbat, Lashon, Livush. So what brought Yitro, Kohen Midian, the head priest of Avodah Zarah, to the desert? The fact that the Jewish people accomplished the impossible, which is getting out of Egypt, defeating Pharaoh, getting out of the 49th level of Tum'ah, with Shalal. That's what Yitro came into the desert to see. What is it? I gotta see. What is it? What was the one thing that Pharaoh missed? What was the one thing that the merit that they had? Shalal, Shem, Lashon, Livush is what merited them to get out of Egypt and to merit to the Geulah and the receiving of the Torah and the land of Israel. And that's our lesson today. When we step up our Shalal, we bring the Geulah closer. So Be'ezat Hashem, that we act like Jews, look like Jews, talk like Jews, and bring the Mashiach for the Jews and for the whole world. Hashem Be'ech Otchem, Mesameach Otchem.